Hello, my name is John, and I am a Blood Elven mage. That's right, a powerful master of the arcane magics. Fire, ice, mana. I know it all. And not only that, I'm devilishly good looking to boot. Now, you might think to yourself, a Blood Elven mage? Wow, how can I be that popular? How can I be that awesome? Well, the first thing you have to do is learn the secret arcane arts of magic. The second thing you have to do is go out and challenge one of the particularly dense blood elven warlocks out there. And the third thing you have to do is defeat him in battle. Fairly easy to do. So I'm sure if you want to follow in my footsteps, you'll fail. Because who could follow in my footsteps? I'm awesome. I'm a blood elven mage. There are probably more than a few people playing World of Warcraft right now. Why don't you join them? What's your game? Hello, and welcome to Chapter 14 of Book 1 of You Should Be Reading. Today, we're going to be looking at this book, Mogworld, by Yahtzee Croshaw. Now, those of you who don't know who Yahtzee Croshaw is, he is the creator of none other than... That's right, Zero Punctuation on The Escapist. Now, The Escapist is a magazine, and, well, an online magazine with gaming news and whatnot, and Zero Punctuation is Yahtzee Croshaw's review site where he reviews games in a very fast-speaking, rambling manner, which I thoroughly enjoy. I've been watching him since about the first time he was on The Escapist. I've always enjoyed his reviews, whether or not I agree with them or not. He's always been very entertaining to me. He is a British fellow living in Australia, and I've always been fond of the British sense of humor, the way it's kind of dry, acerbic in a way, and he very much exemplifies that. Now, he wrote this wonderful book, Mogworld. I don't know if you can see. There you go. Well, maybe. There you go. Oh, I suppose it's good enough. Yes, as you can see, the picture is something that looks kind of similar to those of you who may play World of Warcraft. That's because this is kind of a send-up to World of Warcraft. Now, before I continue, there's going to be something kicking up which I haven't really done before. Not before now. It's something that I haven't been too terribly concerned about, but it's going to be popping up here in a minute. But first I'm going to read you the back of the book. Now, for those of you who don't want to be spoiled, this is all you're getting. Once this is done, the spoiler warning is going to pop up, and afterwards, I'm going to talk more in depth about this book. So, here's the back of the book. A novel that will give a whole new meaning to the term corpse run. In a world full to bursting with would-be heroes, Jim couldn't be less interested in saving the day. His fireballs fizzle, he's awfully grumpy. Plus, he's been dead for about 60 years. When a renegade necromancer wrenches him from eternal slumber and into a world gone terribly, bizarrely wrong, all Jim wants is to find a way to die properly, once and for all. On his side, he's got a few shambling corpses, an inept thief, and a powerful death wish. But he's up against tough odds. Angry mobs of adventurers, a body falling apart at the seams, and a team of programmers racing a deadline to hammer the last few bugs in their AI. But that's what the book's about. Short, sweet, to the point. If you don't want to be spoiled as to anything else that's in here, because the back of the book is kind of in plain sight, so to speak, so I'm not really going to say that's spoiling. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, stop the video now, go read the book, come back and watch the video later, and tell your friends. But, for now, ladies and gentlemen, spoiler warning! Okay, so, anybody who doesn't want to be spoiled, they should be gone by now. So, Mogworld by Ozzy Croshaw. Jim is an apprentice mage back in the day when a team of bad guys come through, ransack their town, kill everybody, including Jim. He thinks, okay, he's dead, drifting up to the peaceful heavens when suddenly he's wrenched back from that peaceful existence that he was kind of enjoying. And he finds out he's a shambling corpse. He's literally an undead monstrosity. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm not really digging this. Tries to kill himself. Doesn't work out because it just pops back up again. Any of you who have played World of Warcraft in any of the games will realize you die, you resurrect, you die, you resurrect. You'll recognize that. This book is littered with similar type situations. Anyone who's ever played Warcraft will get a lot of the jokes in here. Probably get all of them. Because he very much wrote this as, at once, a send-up, a satire of that culture, of that type of games industry, and that type of genre, the MMORPG, but also, in a way, a love letter, almost. I mean, Yahtzee Croshaw himself has gone on record that he doesn't hate everything MMORPGs stand for. He just hates how boring and repetitive they are, I believe. I hope I'm not misquoting him. If I am, I'm sure somebody will tell me about it. But regardless, you've got Jim. He's an undead mage. He can't really do a lot with the magic, but he's determined to kill himself. He's got on his side Meryl, another undead, who is extremely chipper. She's the go-getter, organizer type, the one that's always very much, we can do it if we all pull together as a team. Everybody, there's no I in team, that sort of thing. There's also an undead priest who believes that he is being brought back to life by his Lord on high to smite evildoers, which is really quite interesting. For the first part of the book, Jim seems to be kind of in tune, in a way, with a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes. Now, what's going on behind the scenes, you find out as things are going along. Anyone who knows anything about computers will pick up on the hints that are scattered throughout the book. That Jim, in his world, is actually an online video game. And that everyone being brought back is something that, naturally video games do. But the characters, the people living in this online virtual world, these virtual people, are kind of, in a way, they notice that they're dying and coming back, and nobody stays dead. And it's unnatural to them. They think something's going on, it's the end of the world. Or possibly not. It depends. So you've got all this going on. And in it, you have Jim wandering around, seeing bits and pieces of code and not knowing what's going on, seeing conversations being had by the developers, not understanding any of it, but kind of piecing together bits and pieces throughout the course of the adventure as he tries to basically kill himself. So it's really kind of interesting. But the best part about this book, this particular book, is the writing, the style, the flavor of the story, of the characters, the way Mr. Croshaw breathes some wonderful life into them. I would not hesitate, not even for a moment, of comparing him to another great British author that I enjoy, one who has sadly passed away several years ago. But I see him in this book and in his other book, which is called Jam, which is all about a world apocalypse that is caused by jam. And that's all I'm going to say about that until I review it later on. But still, now, both of these books, Yahtzee Croshaw puts me in mind of somebody that's the 21st century, my age, somebody who grew up in the 90s and seen everything that's gone on, seen the development of the video games industry, saw all this, lived all this. Somebody like me, somebody like people my age. He's this type of author. If he, I'll just get right to the point because I'm beating around the bush here. If Douglas Adams was born and my age and grew up around the video games, this is kind of the kind of book that I think he would write. I think Yahtzee Croshaw has a lot of similarity to Douglas Adams, where he takes this concept that is inherently amusing in and of itself, and then he takes the situations with this concept and drags them out to absurdity and beyond. And it's really entertaining to read. Anyone who's played World of Warcraft or any MMO will certainly get a kick out of this book. Anyone who hasn't played World of Warcraft or any MMORPG, anyone who isn't really a gamer is still going to get a kick out of this book just because of the situations and the characters involved. They are kind of archetypical, except for Jim, but even Jim is kind of archetypical. He's a bit of a misanthrope. He doesn't really like other people, even though he's forced to kind of work with them. And I can see there's definitely a lot of Yahtzee Croshaw's particular brand of snark bleeding into the Jim and out into the rest of the world. The other characters, especially the ones that travel with Jim, are kind of foils to him, and that's okay, because it really puts that adventuring party trope up on the pedestal, where you've got the hero, or supposed to be hero, Jim, and his adventuring party traveling out into the world, going on this grand adventure to save the world. Yet nothing really goes according to plan. At least not the way you're supposed to believe that it's supposed to go. Heroes are supposed to overcome these obstacles, la 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 la. A lot of the time they fail. A lot of the time they succeed, but they don't succeed in ways that you would expect. So yes, Mogworld by Yahtzee Croshaw. He is an author to watch out for. So far, as I know, he's only written 2 books. I hope he writes more, because I would really like to read more of them. But I understand he also does a video series. He does game reviews. He does other things. So he's a pretty busy guy. Still, with 2 books out already, that's not a bad start. So this week, I recommend Mogworld by Yahtzee Croshaw. And I hope you all are liking my videos. Please like and subscribe, tell your friends, all that good stuff. I keep forgetting to tell people to do that. Also, if you like what I'm doing, if you don't like what I'm doing, if you just want to say something, please leave it in the comments. I don't always poke around them, but if I do, I generally will reply if I've got the time. If you have any questions, you can send it to my email. It's on my website, I believe. I think it's on my channel. Yes. Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, youshouldbereading.com at gmail.com. You can tell I'm not very good at this. I also have a blog on Tumblr. I should be blogging. It can be seen at You Should Be Reading Tumblr. Although you should spell it the U with a just letter U, and the rest should be reading if you want to look that up on Tumblr. You can follow me there if you like. You can follow me on my Google Plus page. I've got a couple of those things. But for now, I'm going to leave you with the prologue of Mogworld. And remember, read more books. Queek, 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 queek. A dream about my father chasing me through the fields with a pig sticker took an even more nightmarish turn when he started emitting a rhythmic, high-pitched screech. Then I swam dizzily into full wakefulness to find an alarm sprite floating through the dormitory. It had to be an emergency. They didn't deploy alarm sprites lightly. It takes 2 fairly high-level mages to shut the damn things up. And I'd spent enough time at St. Gordon's Magical College to know that any emergency involving magic is something you want to get away from as fast as you can. After a minute of confused bustle, in which dressing gowns were thrown on and several sets of slippers thudded their way downstairs, I and the rest of the second years followed the squealing ball of light into the entrance squad. The ear-molesting noise was immediately joined by the screams of several other alarm sprites as the rest of the student body filed out into the pre-dawn gloom. That's when I knew that something was really wrong. An alarm in itself wasn't that unusual, especially not in the second-year dorm. After spending the entire first year learning theory and taking the mandatory psychological tests, students tended to be overly enthusiastic with their first firebolts. But a full evacuation of the entire student body, 57, and faculty, 4, wasn't usually necessary. "Jim," called Mr. Everwind, my tutor. Sweat was dripping from the brim of his pointy hat. "Line up the second years at the back." We were too rattled to do anything but obey, taking up position behind the third years. All the students had been arranged by year into a rather haphazard rectangle that didn't seem to have anything to do with usual drill procedure. Suddenly the sun began to rise, spilling orange dawn over the rolling hills of the surrounding plains. I noticed that the horizon was a lot more textured than I remembered, and more bristling with siege weaponry. An army was advancing towards the school. Just as I had done on my first day, I deeply resented the fact that St. Gordon's Magical College was not, in fact, a castle. "All right, chaps, settle down," said the headmaster, resplendent in his star-patterned cardigan as he strode back and forth in front of the student body. "Let me assure you that there is absolutely no reason to panic." The rising tension was not eased in the slightest. "It's probably just some misunderstanding. Stop chewing, Heverson. But a Straganofian army appears to be attacking the college. Now, don't worry. You are only here as a precaution. We have enlisted a former graduate, Ponyleaf the Enchanter, and his adventuring party to aid us. And I want you to show them the same respect you'd show me. Understand? I said spit that out, boy." Ponyleaf was tall and thin, with a curly beard and the kind of rugged tan and fidgety nervousness that comes from a career adventuring through the gnoll and goblin-haunted wilderness. He stepped forward, separating himself from a bored-looking Lolidian dwarf and a poorly dressed Anoresian warrioress who looked chilly in every sense of the word. "Good morning," he said with a cough, turning his staff over in his hands. A furious, ongoing roar was slowly edging into earshot, punctuated by the clash of swords against shields. "Good morning, Mr. Ponyleaf," droned the bewildered student body dutifully. Now, what we're dealing with here is a loose alliance of student fighters from the warrior schools just over the border in Stroganoff. Obviously, not much of a match for veteran adventurers like us. They're here because the king of Stroganoff has put out a request to recover the Stone of Solomus that was left with this college by its founders hundreds of years ago. Now, obviously, we will never surrender the stone to such bully boy tactics, but I would ask that I and my fellows be allowed to look after the stone for its protection, so that we can wave it at the enemy for the purposes of psychological warfare. We don't have the stone, said the headmaster, as Ponyleaf met his gaze hopefully. You what? We've only been open 6 years. There's no such thing as the Stone of Solomus. The king's mad. Last year he made his son marry a koi pond. An awkward silence passed. Or at least, it would have been a silence, were it not for the increasingly loud war cry and wet thudding of booted feet upon the dewy morning grass, not to mention the subtle clinking of light armor, as the two other members of Ponyleaf's adventuring party attempted to shuffle toward the back gate unnoticed. Can I be perfectly frank? Said Ponyleaf eventually. We're kind of only doing this because we were hoping you'd let us have the stone as a reward. Well, that's obviously not going to happen. No, I can see that. He looked behind him and did a double take that was just a little bit too obvious. Sorry, it seems my colleagues have wandered off somewhere. I'm just going to see where they went and come right back. Then he left, quickly. The frontmost rank of armored frat boys was now over the last hill and had broken into a run. The ground was quivering in almost perfect synchronization with my stomach. Right then, said the headmaster, tight-lipped, eyes fixed on the fence over which Ponyleaf had just vaulted. I know most of you didn't really expect to be practicing this level of combat magic this early in your career, but I think I can say that if I were an invading army, I'd certainly be given pause for concern by such a formidable rank of enchanters as, God damn it, Haverson, I told you once before about... The vibrating rear half of an arrow suddenly appeared in his temple. He concluded his sentence with a few spit bubbles before falling over. A large chunk of our defense force took this as the invitation to run away, but I didn't. Furious tears were forming in my eyes. I'd spent my last vegetable tray on tuition fees. Home was at least 5 turnips worth of journey away, and more to the point, the last place I wanted to go. St. Gordon's might not have been the most prestigious magic college in the world, and its graduates generally couldn't entertain any ambitions beyond running a pest control business, but it was all I had. The creaky wooden gates were pulverized into splinters under a whirling cloud of iron boots and training warhammers. I extended a hand and began to incant. Arcanus, Inferus, I don't actually remember if I was able to get a firebolt off. I have a vague memory of seeing orange light splatter harmlessly against a spiked breastplate, but that just might have been sparks from all the metal rubbing against metal. Then there was a sound rather like a bag of wet laundry being hurled across a gravel driveway. And that was the first time I died. So, remember, you should be reading.